repeatedly, voters told me that abortion was what was driving them to vote, that, democracy issues were driving them to vote. And these weren't all the hardline Democrats who were saying that. So I think that the crossovers, the ticket splitters, the people who had reservations with some of the candidates are the reason for this. And as you say, independents in a midterm year usually go against the party of power. And that's not what happened this time.
The mainstream American public is a bell curve on abortion. It's 13, 15 weeks. It's safe. It's legal. It's rare. That's right. Not where these races were at all.
Right. And if Republicans were talking about abortion in this year, it was not good for them, because you just ended up with a lot of really easy to cut campaign ads for Democrats.
This sort of is, in a sense, it brings me back to what you were saying at the beginning, that usually, right, incumbents have a problem. But Republicans essentially became incumbents on abortion because they control the judiciary, right? And in the sense that for 50 years, they were able to run as opposition on abortion, and suddenly they had to run as if they were the policymakers on abortion, and that put them in a really difficult spot.
It certainly did. And the reality is that in divided government, no national ban on abortion was going to be passed or signed, certainly. It wasn't going to become law. Right. And President Biden has now admitted that it's pretty unlikely that the numbers exist to codify Roe. But there were a lot of Democratic candidates that were running on codifying Roe. And Roe is not a policy of unlimited abortion. It's not the sort of caricature that Republicans would paint about the sort of extreme Democratic position. And Democrats did an incredibly good job of not actually talking about what limits they wanted, other than to say they wanted to codify Roe.
So as it looks now, the House would appear to be about to flip to the Republicans, a very, very narrow majority, but nonetheless, in red districts across the country, a lot of strongly MAGA candidates did win. What do you think that means? What does that look like for governance in the United States for the second half of the Biden administration?
I think that there's not going to be a huge amount of brand new policy making that happens in the next 2 years. And often in the second 2 years of a president's term, not a whole heck of a lot happens. But certainly what this does do is give President Biden a foil. When his agenda isn't getting through, no longer does he have to blame his own party. He can blame the other guys for blocking his agenda. It was not easy for Nancy Pelosi to lead the House with the narrow majority that Democrats had in the last 2 years. That was not easy. And she is, one of the most skilled tacticians of, governance that you could imagine. It is not going to be easy to get the Republican conference to do governing stuff. They'll probably have a fairly easy time passing messaging bills. But anything that would have a chance of moving in the Senate, or anything that would have a chance of actually getting to the president's desk, I can't see a lot of big things happening. That said, no matter what the balance of power in Congress, they have to figure out how to fund the government. And that is going to be a heavy lift. Especially because there are many members of the House Republican Conference who have never voted for a budget and don't intend to start.